Hey, future aviators! Welcome to Brightifyme Academy. Your journey to the cockpit starts right now. Stay tuned, stay motivated, and thank you for being here. Let's fly high.
That feeling, right? It's almost a reflex at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
You're walking down a busy street, or maybe you're stuck in gridlock traffic, just staring at the bumper in front of you, or sitting on a park bench trying to catch a breath. And you hear it.
That low, rhythmic hum.
Exactly, that hum. It's so distinct from the roar of a jetliner way up in the stratosphere. It's closer, more mechanical, more alive, really.
Yeah.
You look up, shading your eyes against the glare, and you spot it. Just a small, single-engine plane, a tiny white speck against the blue canvas, cruising along at maybe 2,000 or 3,000 feet.
For a split second, the world around you just stops.
It totally fades out. The noise of the city, the stress of the day, you watch it go, and you think, I wonder where they're going. But more importantly, there is that gnawing question that hits you right in the gut.
Could that be me?
Could that be me? Yes.
Yeah, it's a universal moment, honestly. I think it speaks to that primal desire for detachment. That sense of physically rising above the noise and the chaos of the world below. It is literally the oldest dream humanity has, to leave the ground.
It is. But for 99% of us, it stays just that, a dream. It
so.
feels unreachable. It feels like something, other people do. People with superpowers or super bank accounts or some secret knowledge the rest of us just don't have.
Which is exactly what we're going to dismantle today.
Yes, we are. We are clearing the runway, we are checking the magnetos, and we are taking a serious, granular, deep dive into the private pilot license, specifically the PPLA under the European regulations.
That's right. We aren't just talking about flying in the abstract or the romance of it, though that's certainly there. We're going to break down exactly, step by step, what it takes to get from the ground to the left seat of the cockpit.
And we're looking at this specifically through the lens of the EASA framework.
Yes, the European Aviation Safety Agency. So if you're in Europe or planning to fly there, or honestly just curious about how one of the world's strictest aviation systems works, this is your definitive roadmap.
We have a massive stack of material here, drawing heavily from a really comprehensive breakdown by Egmont Aviation, alongside the actual EASA Part FCL regulations.
Which stands for Flight Crew Licensing, for those playing the acronym game at home.
Right. And the mission today is simple, absolute clarity. We want to take the mystery out of the process for you. We're going to cover the what, the how, the where, the legalities, and of course, the big uncomfortable question.
The how much.
The how much, exactly.
And we should probably start by defining the objective. Because pilot license is a term that gets thrown around so loosely in movies and pop culture.
Oh, for sure.
But in the eyes of the law, it is extremely specific. It is a legal document with very, very hard edges.
Right. The source material uses an analogy that I think is the best starting point, even if we are going to complicate it a bit later. They compare the PPL to a driver's license.
It's definitely the most helpful mental anchor to start with. Think about your car.
Yeah.
You don't just hop in and drive because you feel like it.
Right, you'd crash immediately.
Exactly. You go to a school, you learn the theory of the road signs, right-of-way, speed limits. You practice with an instructor who usually has their own brake pedal to save you from yourself.
Thank goodness for that brake pedal.
Truly. You pass a practical test, and finally the government hands you a plastic card that says you can legally operate a vehicle on public roads. The PPL is essentially that, but for the sky.
But I want to push back on that analogy just slightly because the stakes feel so different. I mean, if I pull over in a car because I'm confused, I'm on the shoulder eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
If I pull over in a plane, I'm in the trees.
That is a very fair distinction. The consequences of error are significantly higher, and the environment is three-dimensional and unforgiving of neglect. But the regulatory concept is the same. It's a license to learn, really.
A license to learn. I like that.
But there are boundaries. Just like a standard driver's license doesn't let you drive a semi-truck or a motorcycle, the PPL has strict fences around it. Specifically, we are talking about the PPLA. That A is crucial.
A for airplane.
Correct. This distinguishes it from PPLH for helicopters, or licenses for balloons, gliders, or sailplanes. We are talking about fixed-wing, powered aircraft.
Got it.
And there's another critical distinction that defines the private and private pilot license. It's the golden rule of aviation economics.
Yeah, I was reading this in the regulations, and it seemed incredibly strict. The rule is essentially no money.
Zero. The fundamental definition of a private pilot is that you can act as pilot in command, or PIC, or as a co-pilot on non-commercial flights. You cannot be paid to fly.
Not a dime.
Not a dime. You cannot take a salary. You cannot charge passengers a fare that generates a profit. It is strictly non-commercial.
So just to be crystal clear for you listening who might be getting some entrepreneurial ideas right now, I can't get my license on Tuesday, rent a Cessna on Wednesday, and tell my neighbor, hey, give me 500 euros and I'll fly you to Paris for the weekend.
Definitely not. That is an illegal charter operation.
Right?
That puts you into the realm of commercial aviation or CPL. That's a whole different ballgame with different medical standards, different training volumes, and much stricter oversight regarding maintenance and insurance. The PPL is for you. It's for your recreation, your travel, your personal business.
There was a nuance in the source, though, something about cost sharing. Because surely if I fly my friends, they can chip in for gas.
Yes, that is the one exception, but you have to tread very carefully. You can share the direct costs of the flight. So if the fuel and rental cost 200 euros total and you fly with a friend, you can split that bill?
Okay, 50-50.
Exactly. But you, the pilot, must pay your share. You cannot make a profit and you cannot even fly for free if the passenger is covering 100% of the cost in a way that looks like compensation.
So I can't be fully subsidized by my buddies.
Right, it's a hobby license, a very serious, high-stakes hobby license.
Got it. So we know what the license is, but here is where the research gave me a massive aha moment. I always assumed, and I think most people do, that once you get your license, that's it. You're a pilot. You can hop in a plane and go anywhere, anytime, in any weather.
That is probably the most misunderstood part of aviation for the general public.
Yeah, because the source makes this really important distinction between the license and the rating. This seems to be where the real complexity lives.
We tend to view the license as the key to the sky. But in aviation, the license, the actual piece of paper or card issued by the authority, is just the container. It's the portfolio.
Okay, explain that. If the license is the wallet, what is the money?
The rating. The rating is what actually grants you the privilege to do something specific.
Yeah.
It's the stamp inside the passport.
Ah, okay.
So when you finish your training and you pass your skill test, you don't just get a generic pilot license that lets you do everything.
Yep.
You get a PPLA that contains a specific rating. And for almost everyone starting out, that is the single engine piston land class rating, or SEPLAND.
That sounds incredibly technical. Let's parse that out. Single engine piston land. What exactly does that let me do?
Break it down word by word. Single engine means you are restricted to airplanes with one propeller in the front.
Makes sense.
Piston means the engine works like a car engine. Cylinders, spark plugs, internal combustion. This excludes jets or turboprops, which use turbine engines.
Right.
And land means you can take off and land on hard surfaces or grass, not water.
So no seaplanes.
Not with that rating, no. You'd need a SEP-C rating for that. And there are implied limitations in that starter pack, too. This standard PPL allows you to fly in what we call VFR, visual flight rules.
Which means
It means you need to be able to see where you're going. You cannot fly into clouds. You cannot fly in low visibility. You navigate by looking out the window at the ground. And unless you add more ratings, you are limited to flying during the day.
wait, so I spend all this time and money getting a license, and I'm actually restricted to small planes, one engine, good weather, daytime, and land runways. Sounds a bit limiting.
It can feel that way if you look at it negatively, but, and this is the beauty of the system, that is just the foundation. The PPL is designed to be modular. It's like a video game where you unlock expansion packs.
Okay, I like that framing.
Want to fly at night? You don't get a new license. You just do 5 hours of specific training and add a night rating to your existing license.
That makes sense. It glows with you.
Exactly. Want to fly through clouds? You get an instrument rating. Want to fly a plane with 2 engines? Multi-engine rating. The source material highlights this range beautifully. With a PPLA, you can start in a Cessna 152, which is a tiny 2-seater trainer that looks like a lawnmower with wings. And with the right ratings added over time, you can technically fly a citation jet.
A private jet.
Yeah.
On a private pilot license.
As long as it's for non-commercial use,
Right.
meaning you aren't charging people to fly in it.
Yeah.
And you have the specific type rating for that jet, absolutely. The license isn't the limit, the ratings are.
That really changes how I look at the certification. It's not a finish line, it's a platform.
Exactly. It's a platform for endless learning.
Yeah.
You build your privileges as you build your experience.
Now, let's talk about geography. The source material talks a lot about EASA, and for you listening, if you are in the US or Asia, this might seem specific to Europe, but the concept of where can I fly is universal.
It is. The general rule of aviation is actually quite open. If you have a license, you can fly virtually anywhere geographically. Yeah, you can take off in France and fly to the USA, provided you have the range and the navigation skills. The sky doesn't have fences, generally speaking, unless you're flying over a military base or restricted airspace.
Right. Don't fly over Area 51. Or I guess the European equivalent, which would be what?
Maybe restricted airspace over a nuclear plant in France, or some of the military training zones in the Alps. Good advice is to stay away unless you want an intercept by a fighter jet.
Yeah, let's avoid that.
But there is a bureaucratic gotcha that catches a lot of people out. It's not about where the plane is, it's about what the plane is. Every airplane has a nationality.
Like a passport for the machine.
Precisely. You see those letters painted on the tail? N for USA, G for United Kingdom, D for Germany, F for France. That's the registration mark. The golden rule is to fly a plane registered in country A, you generally need a license issued by country A.
So if I have a German license, I can't just hop into an American registered N-tail plane and fly it.
Not automatically, no. You'd need an American license validation to fly the American plane.
That sounds like a nightmare if you're traveling across Europe, where you cross a border every hour.
Yeah.
If I fly from Germany to Italy, do I need an Italian license to fly an Italian plane?
It used to be that complicated decades ago. You'd have a stack of validations.
Yeah.
But this is where EASA, the European Aviation Safety Agency, is a massive game changer. It's a standardization project.
Okay.
EASA works with the civil aviation authorities, the CAAs of all the member states, to make the rules identical.
So Germany, France, Italy, Spain, they're all reading from the exact same rule book.
Exactly. There are 31 EASA member states. That includes the EU countries, plus the non-EU members like Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. The benefit is huge. If you get your PPL in, say, Poland, which is an EASA member state, that license is recognized automatically for any aircraft registered in any other EASA member state.
So my Polish license lets me fly a Spanish-registered plane in Italy.
Yes. It opens up the entire continent. You are not locked into one country's ecosystem. It's like having a universal European driving license.
That is a massive advantage. But the elephant in the room regarding European geography right now is the UK. Since Brexit, the UK is outside that EASA bubble.
Correct. The UK is now a third country in regulatory terms. So if you hold an EASA license and you want to fly a G-registered UK plane, you hit a regulatory wall. Your EASA license does not automatically grant you privileges on UK aircraft anymore.
So what do you do? Do you have to go to flight school all over again in the UK?
Not all over again, but you have hoops to jump through. Option 1 is paperwork. You apply for a validation or a conversion. You show the UK authorities your EASA license, maybe you pass a check ride, and they give you a UK equivalent. But that takes time and money.
Is there a hack? Because the source seemed to suggest a hack for the casual traveler.
There is a hack for the casual flyer who just wants the experience. Rent the plane with an instructor.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, if the instructor holds the correct license for that plane, they are technically the pilot in command. You can sit in the left seat, you can do the flying, but legally, they are responsible. It's a great way to gain experience, fly a different plane, and see a new country without drowning in paperwork.
I like that. It's like hiring a local guide who lets you drive the tour bus.
A very fast flying tour bus, yes.
Okay, so we've established what the license is and where we can use it. Now let's talk about the person. What do you need to have before you can even think about touching the controls? The source lists 4 pillars of legality.
These are the 4 items you must physically have on you or in your flight bag to be legal. If you're missing one, you're grounded.
Walk us through them.
Number 1, the pilot license itself. That's the card we discussed. Number 2, a valid rating. You might have the license, but if your rating has expired, the license is basically just a souvenir.
Right.
Number 3, a medical certificate. And number 4, ICAO English proficiency.
Let's stop on the medical, because this feels like the one thing you can't really study for. You either have the health or you don't.
That's right. And that is why the strongest advice from the source and from any pilot really is to start here. Before you buy the books, before you fall in love with a flight school, before you buy the cool aviator sunglasses, go get your medical.
Imagine spending thousands on lessons only to find out you have a heart condition that prevents you from flying.
It happens. And it's heartbreaking. For a PPL, you generally need a Class 2 medical. There's a Class 1, but that's for commercial pilots, airline captains.
Yeah.
That one is much stricter.
Sure.
Class 2 is designed for private flying. It checks your heart, vision, hearing, general health, and psychiatric history. It's not Olympic athlete standards, but you need to be fit to operate machinery safely.
What about glasses? That's the classic myth, right?
Yeah.
If you wear glasses, you can't be a pilot.
Total myth. As long as your vision is correctable to the required standard with glasses or contacts, you're fine. You just have to carry a spare pair of glasses in the cockpit.
Oh, that makes sense.
Color blindness can be trickier. But even then, There are often workarounds for private pilots, like being restricted to day flying only.
And the flight schools help with this? Scheduling it, I mean?
Usually, yes. They'll have a list of air medical examiners or AMEs you can visit. It's a straightforward appointment, usually takes about an hour. They check your urine, listen to your heart, check your peripheral vision. It's thorough, but nothing to be terrified of. But it's the absolute first step.
Okay, so you pass the physical, you're fit to fly, now comes the classroom, the dreaded ground school. The source mentions a minimum of 100 hours of theoretical instruction. That sounds intense.
It is a commitment. You can't just wing the theory, pun intended. You have to understand the environment you're operating in. And it's not just one subject, it's 9.
9 subjects. I was expecting maybe, how to fly and weather. What are the 9?
It's a comprehensive curriculum. Let's break them down, because they each serve a vital purpose. First, air law. This is the rules of the road. Who has right of way? What do the runway markings mean? What airspace can you enter? It's dry, but it keeps you legal and safe.
The traffic code of the sky.
Exactly. Then you have meteorology. This is huge. You need to understand weather patterns, clouds, icing, fronts. This is critical because weather is the #1 killer of private pilots. You need to look at the sky and know if it's going to kill you in an hour.
It got dark, but point taken.
It's the reality. Then there is human performance. This is fascinating. It's about how your body reacts to the environment. Hypoxia, which is a lack of oxygen. Spatial disorientation, when your inner ear lies to you and you think you're flying straight, but you're actually in a death spiral.
Wow.
Stress management. Optical illusions on approach.
So it's psychology and biology rolled into one.
Yes. Then navigation. How to find your way with a map and compass when the GPS fails. Principles of flight. The physics. Lift, drag, thrust, weight. Why the plane actually flies and what happens when you push the stick forward. Aircraft general knowledge. How the engine works. The electrical systems, the fuel systems, the pitot-static system. You need to know your machine.
So if the engine starts making a weird noise, you have an idea why.
Precisely. You aren't just a passenger pulling levers. Then operational procedures. How to operate the aircraft in standard and emergency configurations. Flight performance and planning. Calculating if you have enough runway to take off on a hot day with a heavy load.
Right. Just because the seats are there doesn't mean you can fill them and still fly.
Exactly. Density altitude is a real thing. And finally, VFR communications. How to talk on the radio.
Wow. That covers literally everything. It's basically a mini degree in aviation.
It is. And nowadays, you have options. You can do this in a classroom, old school style, or online via Zoom or dedicated learning platforms. But there is a very specific piece of advice the expert in the source gives regarding language.
Yes, this caught my eye. Even if you are in, say, Germany or France or a country where English isn't the native tongue, they highly recommend taking the theory course in English. Why is that?
Because English is the international language of aviation. It's the lingua franca. This goes back to the Chicago Convention in 1944. If you look at the manuals for a Boeing or even a Cessna, they are in English. The regulations, the forums where you ask for advice, the checklists inside the plane, it's almost exclusively English.
So if you learn all the technical terms in your native language, you might actually be handicapping yourself later on.
Precisely. You'd have to double translate in your head. Okay, what is angle of attack in my language? It's better to just learn the industry standard from day one. And you don't need to be Shakespeare. The source notes that an intermediate level, B1, is enough to start. The vocabulary is technical, so you'll learn the specific words as you go.
And at the end of this 100 hours, there are exams.
Yes, 9 official exams at the CAA. But don't panic. The source describes them as relatively short and easy if you've done the prep. It's multiple choice usually. It's not about writing essays. It's about proving, the safety limits.
Okay. Theory is done. Exams are passed. Now we fly. This is the part everyone dreams about. The source quotes an instructor saying, "To learn to fly, you need to fly."
Simple, but profound. You can read about a stall, but until you feel the buffet in the yoke and the nose drop, until you feel your stomach lift slightly, you don't know a stall. You have to build the muscle memory.
So what's the commitment here? How many hours are we talking about to get proficient?
The legal minimum for an EASA PPL is 45 hours of flight time.
45 hours. That actually doesn't sound like that much. That's like a standard work week plus a little overtime.
It sounds short, but remember, that is 45 hours of intense active learning.
Yeah.
And that's the minimum. The reality check provided in the source is that most people need more. Maybe 50, maybe 60. It depends on the weather, your coordination, how often you fly.
Right.
If you fly once a week, you spend the first 20 minutes just remembering what you did last week. If you fly 3 times a week, you progress much faster.
Consistency is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those hours are split. You have dual instruction, which is a minimum of 25 hours, with an instructor sitting next to you teaching you. They demonstrate, you do it. You learn how to taxi, take off, land, recover from unusual attitudes, and then the big milestone, solo flight.
The first time you're alone in the plane.
Minimum 10 hours solo. But that first solo usually happens around hour 15 or 20. It is a massive psychological step.
Yeah.
You taxi out, the instructor tells you to stop, opens the door, gets out on the tarmac and says, okay, take it around the pattern once, don't break it.
That has to be terrifying.
It's terrifying and exhilarating. You realize suddenly that the seat next to you is empty. There is no one to save you if you mess up. The plane climbs faster because it's lighter without the instructor. It's quiet. It is the moment you truly become a pilot. You talk to yourself. Okay, speed is good, flaps down. It creates a confidence that nothing else can match.
The source goes into detail about a specific mission during these solo hours later in the training. The hero mission, I'm calling it. The 150 nautical mile triangle. Tell us about this.
This is the qualifying cross-country requirement. You have to plan and execute a flight that is at least 150 nautical miles long. You take off from your home base, you must land at 2 different aerodromes and then return home.
So point A to point B, point C, back to point A.
Exactly. And you're doing this alone. You're navigating, talking to air traffic control, managing the engine, landing at unfamiliar airports, all by yourself. Maybe you have to refuel. Maybe the wind is different than you planned. The host in the source describes this as one of the best experiences, taking the keys and disappearing for half a day.
That sounds incredible.
It's a moment you realize, I can actually use this machine to go places. I'm not just flying circles around my home airport.
That sounds like the ultimate final exam before the actual final exam.
It really is. It
Yeah.
proves you have the endurance and the planning capability.
And then once you have the hours, you face the license skill test, the final boss.
Yes, you go up with an examiner for about 90 minutes.
Yep.
They're not there to teach you. They're there to judge you. They tell you where to fly. They cut the engine power unexpectedly to see how you handle an emergency. They make you do steep turns, stall recoveries. They simulate fires. They divert you to different airports.
Oh, wow. They really throw the book at you.
They do. They are checking one thing. Is this person safe to let loose in the skies with passengers?
And if you pass that, you get the paper.
You get the paper. But wait, there's one more hurdle we skipped over lightly. The language barrier.
Right. The ICAO English exam. This is separate from the theory exams.
Yes, this is specifically testing your ability to communicate over the radio. In aviation, the radio is your lifeline. If you can't understand the controller telling you to turn left immediately because of traffic, people die.
So how is it graded? Is it pass or fail?
It's the ICAO scale from level 1 to 6. Level 4 is operational. That is the minimum you need to pass. It means you can communicate effectively in standard situations and handle some complications. Level 5 is extended. Level 6 is expert, basically native or near native fluency.
What happens if you get a level 4?
You get your license, but you have to be retested every few years, usually 4 years, to make sure your English hasn't deteriorated. If you get a level 6, it's valid for life. You never have to take the test again.
Ah, the coveted level 6.
It's the gold standard. The source also mentions a quirky detail about Slovenia specifically, and some other countries may do this too. They might require an extra exam for English communication phraseology.
Phraseology.
It's the standard set of phrases pilots use. Roger, Wilco, affirm, negative, line up and wait. It's a formalized code to avoid ambiguity. In normal English, right can mean correct or turn right. In aviation, we say correct or turn right to avoid confusion. Usually you learn this while flying, so the exam is easy, but it's another box to check depending on where you train.
Okay. So we've done the ground school, the flying, the medical, the language. Now comes the painful part, the wallet. How much does this dream cost?
The million-dollar question, or hopefully not $1 million.
The source puts a number on it, based on 22 figures in Europe.
The estimate provided is approximately 15,000 euros.
15,000 euros, okay? That's a decent used car. That's a kitchen renovation. It's significant.
It is, but that number is an aggregate. And the expert is very careful to say it depends. It depends heavily on the school, the location, and the aircraft. Flying a brand new glass cockpit plane in a major city like London or Paris will cost significantly more than flying an older Cessna in a rural club in Eastern Europe.
What actually goes into that 15K? Is that just the instructor fee?
No, that's the total package. But you need to break it down to understand where the money goes. First, plane rental. You are paying for the machine per hour. That covers the maintenance, the insurance, the depreciation. This is the biggest chunk.
Makes sense.
Second, fuel, which, as we know, fluctuates. And aviation fuel, avgas, is expensive. Third, instructor fees. Their time isn't free. Fourth, aerodrome fees. Every time you land, you might pay a landing fee. Every hour you park, you pay a parking fee.
It's like paying for parking downtown, but for a plane.
Exactly. And at big international airports, a landing fee could be 50 or 100 euros. At a grass strip, it might be 5 euros. It adds up. Then you have theory materials, books, navigation computers, charts. Many people buy an iPad and software like Forcelight or SkyDemon. That's another subscription.
Right.
Exam fees, the CAA charges for every test. The medical exam costs money. The headset. A good aviation headset like a Bose can be hundreds, even 1,000 euros.
So the advice here is don't just look at the sticker price on a website.
Right. A school might advertise PPL for 9,000. But they might be calculating based on the absolute minimum 45 hours, excluding landing fees, excluding exam fees, excluding the medical. You need to ask what is actually included, and always budget for extras. If you need 55 hours instead of 45, that's 10 hours of rental and instructor fees you didn't plan for.
Better to budget 18 pay and spend 15 than budget 15 and run out of money halfway through.
Always. Running out of money mid-training is the worst thing because you stop flying, your skills rust, and when you come back, you have to spend even more money to get back to where you were. It's the stopping distance of learning. If you take a month off, you lose 2 lessons worth of progress.
Good advice. Okay, so let's say you've done it. You paid the money, you passed the test, you have the license. Does it expire?
This brings us back to that distinction between the license and the rating. The license document itself, the PPLA, is valid for life. It never expires. It is yours forever.
So I can frame it on my wall, and I'm a pilot until I'm 90.
You are a pilot on paper, but everything attached to it does expire. Your medical expires. Depending on your age, you might need to renew it every year or every 5 years. Your English proficiency expires, unless you got level 6. And most importantly, your separating that privilege to fly single-engine planes expires every 24 months.
So every 2 years you have to prove you can still do it.
Yes. You need to revalidate. Usually this involves showing you've flown a certain number of hours, usually 12, in the last year of validity, including an hour with an instructor. Or you do a proficiency check, basically a mini skill test, with an examiner. If you let that rating expire, you can't fly as pilot in command until you renew it.
So the license is permanent, but the privilege is temporary.
It's a use it or lose it system regarding currency. It is entirely the pilot's responsibility to track these dates. The aviation police won't call you to remind you. You have to be organized. Flying illegal because you missed a date by 1 day is a good way to lose your insurance coverage instantly.
Which brings us to the final section, life after the license. The source poses the question, what now? You have the plastic card. What do you do with it?
Well, the immediate options are rent or buy. Buying a plane is a huge financial leap, obviously. We are talking tens or hundreds of thousands of euros plus hangarage plus maintenance. Renting is what most fresh pilots do. You join a club, you book a plane online, you go for a weekend trip.
But the source really emphasizes continuing education.
Yes, because a fresh PPL holder is safe, but they are inexperienced. We have a saying, a private pilot license is a license to learn. The best way to get better is to keep learning. Go fly different types of aircraft. If you learned in a high-wing Cessna, go fly a low-wing Piper. Go fly a Diamond with a stick instead of a yoke. They feel different. They handle different. It builds your airmanship.
And the ratings we mentioned earlier?
Exactly. Get that night rating so you don't have to land before sunset. That opens up winter flying significantly. Get an instrument rating so you aren't grounded by a cloudy day. Or, if you have career ambitions, the PPL is just step 1. It's the prerequisite for the CPL, the commercial pilot license.
So for some, this is the destination. For others, it's just the beginning of a career.
Correct. But even for the hobbyist, aviation is endless. You never truly know everything. There's always a new weather situation, a new airport, a new navigational challenge. The atmosphere is dynamic.
I love that. So let's bring it all home. We've gone from looking up at that speck in the sky to understanding exactly how to be the person inside it.
It's a journey of discipline. It starts with a medical checkup, moves through 100 hours of books and theory, transitions into the cockpit for stalls and circuits, culminates in that lonely, beautiful 150-mile solo flight, and ends with a check ride.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It's hard work. It's frustrating at times. You will hit plateaus where you feel like you can't land the plane to save your life. But the reward is the ultimate freedom. The ability to move in 3 dimensions, to see the world from a perspective few people ever get, to see the sunset twice in one day because you climbed up to catch it again.
And I think that duality is what makes it so special. It's a strict, regulated, bureaucratic document, the PPL, but what it grants you is total liberty.
That's the paradox of flight. You follow the rules so that you can be free.
I want to leave everyone listening the thought that came up in the source material. It mentions that flying is endless learning. We said the license is valid for life, but the ratings expire. It makes me wonder, does a pilot ever truly finish training? Or is the private pilot license essentially just a permanent student ID card for the sky?
That is a profound way to look at it. I think the safest pilots are the ones who believe they're always students. If you think you've mastered the sky, that's usually when it humbles you.
Something to mull over the next time you hear that hum overhead. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Safe flights, everyone.
See you in the next deep dive.
Dreaming of flying across the world? Not just India, but Paris, London, Dubai? An EASA license is your passport to global skies, recognized in 31 countries and accepted by airlines worldwide. Train in Europe with modern aircraft, multicultural exposure, and the world's highest safety standards. And yes, you can always convert back to DGCA if you choose to return. Confused about costs, universities, or visa process? We're here to help, for free. Hurry, click the link below to register for your free one-on-one consultation today. Limited seats available. Your global cockpit awaits.